was having a really hard time with my depression and the anxiety that I touched on in December's episode. Yeah, so it was all I could do to draw, and I had to force myself to do that, and talking was not a thing that was going to happen, so instead I made a video of me soldering a thing, and turns out I'm actually really good at soldering and making LED D6s, and I didn't know that was a skill I had. So so that was actually like a really fun thing, and I was really happy to make that video that didn't involve talking, because I was not in a talking mood. But I had so much fun just making it that I think I'm going to do more of those. I have the next project I'm going to do is a LED watch from Adafruit, which looks really cool. It's going to be kind of orangey colored, and I don't really know what I can make it do besides light up, but it's going to be a cool light up watch. And then I have this plan that I wrote out the other day where I'm going to make, I'm going to do an IKEA hack with a light up like cubby to put all my 2-player games in, and there's going to be like a LED strip on the inside so it glows and you can see all the games. And I'm actually really excited about that because I was never allowed to build or play with tools or anything, and so I'm really excited to like actually learn how to put things together now and make really cool stuff. And yeah, so I'm gonna make a cubby for 2-player games, which are remarkably hard to find actually, because I was gonna get Clue at Target because Alex has never played Clue before, and so I was like, I don't understand how you cannot have played Clue as a child. So I was gonna get it so we could play it, and I put it in the basket, and then I was like, wait, let me make sure this is actually 2-player, and no, it was 3 to 6 player, because, you know, yeah, I don't know, I was surprised. I thought Clue was 2-player, but it's not. You have to have more than 2 players. So anyway, I have a small but attempting to grow collection of 2-player games that I'm going to show off and keep separate from my 4-player games. That way, then you can see games prettier and it will be fun. So that's my building plan. That was the kind of cool thing that happened instead of me talking about gaming last month. Was I learned a new skill and I'm really good at it, and it was so super fun. And yeah, so expect more of those because that was the thing that happened. And yeah, I realized that I game hop a lot, and I spent an entire day last month just game hopping from one game to the other, and I ended up starting with, well, not starting with, I started with, I don't even remember now, so many games, but I started Dishonored. We had gotten it like on Black Friday or something, and so I started Dishonored, and it's really cool. I liked it a lot. It reminded me a lot of BioShock Infinite, which is good because I love BioShock Infinite, and it could just be because it started off on a boat, and BioShock started off on a boat, so that probably is kind of what triggered the memory, but I started it, and they did a really good job with investing you in the world and building it up for, you know, really quickly. It was just a really kind of, I feel like the introduction was really short, but they built this whole world very quickly and very well, and it was really good because they were talking on the boat ride until you get to the little place, and on the boat ride you learn about the plague, which was interesting because I've never played a game that involved like the plague with rats. Like blights, yeah, but plague, no. So that was new. And yeah, so I got off the boat and I played hide and seek with the little girl, and then we went to see the lady, and this really creepy dude talked to me on the way up there, and I was like, he's weird. But I was like, well, but the lady seems to be cool with him, so, you know. And then there were ninjas after I talked to the lady, and they grabbed the little kid, and then they killed the lady, and the guy who was creepy before, turns out he was actually bad, and he framed me for the murder of the person. And yeah, and that was the introduction, and that was like fast but very quick with the world building and the motivation, and I really enjoyed that. And the other thing that I liked about the game is the combat is so intuitive. Like, I have this problem when I'm playing Dragon Age or Skyrim or Ni no Kuni after not playing it for a while, is I have to then try and remember which like combination of buttons and toggles I have to use in order to fight. And so what happens more often than not in Skyrim is I end up just kind of dying right off the bat because I can't remember what thing I have to hit to use my magic and what I have to use my axe and how I switch between the different kinds of, yeah, so I waste valuable moments during combat trying to figure out what the fuck my combinations were that I set up like months ago. And the same thing happens in Dragon Age, is I get confused with which trigger button is the one that's going to show me my skills and which is the one that's going to like move me over to like the next person, and it gets really difficult and complicated in trying to figure out what does what, and then I'm like this other person and I have an entirely different set of things, and it's very confusing. So, but I really appreciated in Dishonored is it's so straightforward. It's like you have a sword in your right hand and a gun in your left hand, and so the commands for that are just the triggers, and the top trigger on the right is for slicing and assassinating and shit, and then the bottom one is for parrying, which makes complete sense. And then the left hand is your gun, and so you just shoot, and it's like so easy. And I'm sure it gets more complicated when you start adding spells, but I haven't gotten that far. Because after I got out of the prison and I got into the sewer, there was this note on like the box, and it was like, here's some food, your other stuff is down the sewer more further. And so I climbed over this cage because I couldn't go through the door, which later turned out to be a good thing. And I was crawling on top of the cage, and the guards came in, and there were rats that were in the cage, and the guards alive. So I realized that rats are bad and they eat people. And the guards remembered to shut the door on their way in, so that was very convenient. So I noted the bad thing about the rats, and then I continued down the sewer until I came to like this other waterway, and I saw another horde of rats scurrying and devouring a carcass in like 5 seconds. And I was hoping to wait them out, and then I realized I was going to have to actually just go through the rats, so not really through the rats because there was water, so I just swam like away from them. I ran into the water and then swam away, and that worked out pretty well. And so I did a bunch of climbing and walking in mud and shit. So yeah, so I come into this like clearing area that was really complicated to get to, and I hear these people talking about like how they can just go ahead and throw the bodies in here even though they're not supposed to, thus contaminating the water supply area and perpetuating the plague that everyone is dying from. But anyway, they were like, I don't give a shit, we're just gonna dump them in here because I don't feel like carrying them anymore. And so they dumped the bodies down, and I saw them fall into the weird little clearing space. But right before they dropped the bodies, there was another horde of rats that came out and devoured another carcass that was right in front of the door that I needed to get to. Yeah, in like 5 seconds. So I kind of, I knew what I had to do, I had to get the bodies from like the ledge that they fell on and feed them to the rats, but far enough away that I had time to run to where the rats were and open the door with a little wheel thingy and then go into the door and then somehow shut the door within like 10 seconds because the rats are very rapid and very fast at eating bodies. So, so that's where I stopped, which is lame, but at the point I got to that point and I realized what I had to do, and I spent 10 minutes looking around for any other possible way to get around the rats that did not involve me walking in front of them to then get the bodies to then throw somewhere and feed to them. Yeah, so I started getting a little bit queasy after thinking that through for like 10 minutes. Yeah. So that was kind of gross, actually. And it's not that I have any like moral issue with feeding corpses to rats in the game. I don't really care. It's not gonna hurt the, you know, I mean, you're not really helping the plague, but they're rabid anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It was just gross. And yeah. And actually it was more of a I don't think that I'm fast enough to get from my perch to the thing to then drop the bodies off, to then wait for the rats to get to the bodies, twist open a thing, run through the door, and then somehow close it. Yeah, so I stopped there because it was starting to gross me out, and I still get a little bit queasy thinking about it, which is actually, like, I feel like that's actually really good, because I feel like it just goes to credit the storytellers for doing a really fucking good job of telling the story and keeping you invested in the world, even if you do get grossed out like 15 minutes in. You know, because it's just, yeah, and it's such an intriguing world, and if I can manage to get myself past the rats, it will be fucking awesome, because I really want to know what the fuck they put, like, so far away, so many tunnel time to get to close. Like, I think the people that helped me escape just think it would be really funny if I died in a tunnel and was eaten by rats. Like, yeah, they could have, yeah, they could have not put the clothes so far away. They moved food to where I was when I swam out of the prison. They could have put my clothes and shit there. But no, you'd have to go like 3 miles in tunnels and around all the rabid rats and feed the rats so they don't eat you. Yeah, I think they just want me to die in a tunnel. It's intriguing, and I like it, and you know, the fact that it actually, I feel like, because it does give me an actual kind of queasy feeling, I feel like that says a lot about the level of world building and the fact that they're really good at it. Yeah, so good job, people who made Dishonored, and I'll see you next month. He has been walking around meowing like a bad cat.